So, this is an introduction, right? I'll keep it as brief as I can. So, I go by Ultra Kintaro. It's not a good username, but I chose it when I was 13 and I've been using it half my life now, so I'm sort of stuck with it. What's all this about then? Well, I like to play games, and I also like accumulating games. Know what else I like? 100% in my games and making pointless lists. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share with you my journey through the games I played in a week, or at least the equivalent of the week. What I did, where I went, how it went, where I got my ass kicked, while giving my thoughts along the way. It'll be one video on each game in the week showing my progress. Some short games I'll cover entirely in one video, longer ones will be spread across multiple weeks. When a game is done, this is where the love of pointless lists comes in. First I cross them off the big series checklist, then I'm going to rank the games in order of how much I like them. And purely on how much I like them. There'll probably be many times where you could say I ranked a game higher or lower than it deserved. In fact, there will be at least one time where I rank a game lower than some even worse games because I hated that first one so much more. This is a purely emotional list. I'm not going for objectivity here. From me, that would be dull. As for schedule, I'll be uploading a video each day from the beginning of the week until I've uploaded all of that week. This first week just has me playing 3 games, but the average will be about 4. You'll know when you've seen the last one of the week as there'll be a preview for the next episode's games at the end. As for length, they're as long as what I have to say for each game. I have one that's 5 minutes long and another that's over 30. It just depends on the game, how long it is and how much actually happens. For a while, after every 3 weeks, there'll be a bonus episode. Now, how does that work? Well, before I decided on this format, I was going to do reviews and I recorded a lot of games with that idea in mind. But the reviews I did make, I felt turned out very boring. It was after scrapping them and taking a break I realised, this is just an excuse to 100% a lot of games. I don't need to force out reviews to justify that. And that's when I decided to do things the way they are now. But that left me with around 30 games I've already done, and so the bonus episodes will be covering those. Now, just as importantly, how often will these be coming out? Well, I had the first 3 weeks episodes all done in advance, so you'll have 11 videos split across the next 3 weeks. But after that, when they're done. I'm doing this alone and I'm new to it, and with how long some of these get, it's unfeasible right now for me to be bringing the videos out every week. Hopefully as I improve I can speed things up. Now, before I leave you with my more awkward sounding 3 months younger self, there's just some more quick things I'll cover. 1. Please turn on closed captions for these first 3 weeks. I'm so sorry if you can't understand me. I tend to talk quite quick, a lot of the time without realising. I've included subtitles for that reason, and I'm working on that. 2. As a general rule, I'm not going to do games that are under a year old, or are still getting new content. A game has to have all its DLC released before I'll do it. 3. Don't take the rankings too seriously, it's just a bit of fun. 4. I'm aware that as the ranking list gets bigger, it'll be harder to tell how much I like a game compared to another on the list. So when the list gets big enough, I'll probably separate the games into tiers or something so you can get a better idea. 5. You'll notice on some checklists I included different parts of the same game separately. If you think I missed a game or a part that's interesting enough to be covered separately, just let me know in the comments and I'll think about adding it. Also, all games are in release order, so if a later part or remake is in over the original in its spot, that means I only plan to do the updated version, usually for length reasons. 6. I do include every game I can find on the checklist, including ones that can no longer be played, on the chance that they become available again. 7. I'm only going to do games I own in some form, whether physically or through a legitimate digital download. Emulators will only be used for games that cannot be played legitimately at all. Basically arcade games with no re-release or download-only games on platforms that have been shut down. 8. Streaming. So people can watch me waste my life grinding in RPGs in real time? Maybe in the future, I'm not really equipped for that just yet. And that's all I can think of right now, so let's get started. So we'll begin with the first Castlevania. It's a series I've intended to properly get into for years, but the only ones I've really played much of are Lament of Innocence and Judgment. Not the most well regarded of the series, I know. I'm playing this downloaded from the Wii U Virtual Console. I do want a copy on the NES, but I've never touched it. There's not much of a story because this game came out in 1986, but it's 1691. Dracula is an arsehole and ruining Transylvania's Easter, because that's just what he likes to do every 100 years. Simon Belmont is the latest in a clan that exists to kill Dracula when he appears, so he's off to do his job. There is more to the whole history of Dracula and the Belmonts, but I'll save that for the games that introduce those aspects. So gameplay. You got 3 main actions: move, jump and attack. Simon's main weapon is his family heirloom, the Vampire Killer Whip. There is a bit of a delay when using the whip, which can take a while to get used to. Aside from killing enemies, it's also used for whipping the candles, which produce a variety of items. One of these is an upgrade for the whip. It has 2 upgrades. The first makes it more powerful, the second doubles its length. Second are the sub-weapons, which I'll get into later, that are used by pressing the up and whip buttons at the same time. The most common drop are the hearts, which are ammo for the sub-weapons. Then there are the upgrades that allow double and then triple use of the sub-weapons. And finally, there are the items that kill all enemies on screen, and the one that gives temporary invincibility. although the invincibility doesn't really last long enough to be of any help. Unlike most platformers, your jumps are fixed, so no wiggling about in the air trying to make a precise landing, you have to commit. The hit stun is frustrating, since most of the time getting hit by enemies and hazards launches you backwards. Unless there's a pit in front of you, in which case you magically get launched forward and into that instead. Pricks. And that's the gameplay explained. Now how did I actually fare going through this game? The levels in Castlevania are sectioned into 6 blocks consisting of 3 stages. Block 1 starts with Simon entering the gate of Dracula's castle and having a short walk through his garden to the front door. We start off in the main hall. It's just a simple straight room with nothing major, just some zombies and the odd panther. They're easy to deal with. The game is nice enough though to give me an instant kill item when I'm right next to the door to the next stage and nothing can hurt me. Stage 2 is almost as short. Just starts with a couple staircases leading down into the sewer. Just jump along the gaps, killing the fishmen along the way, and I'm already out. More importantly, I find my first sub-weapon, the Holy Water. Now I've already heard before that the Holy Water is the best sub-weapon, so I decide I'm going to keep this and never let it go. So I leave the sewer and enter stage 3, which is back in the main hall, but not before it gives me another instant kill item I don't need. So after going through a few more zombies, I destroy a candle to reveal the axe. I decide I don't need it, because I have the Holy Water, which is the best one obviously. That was a mistake. I reach the first boss, the Phantom Bat. I can't hit it, and it kills me. With my Holy Water gone, I give in and do it properly. I take the axe, which allows me to hit the bat when it's out of my reach, the bat dies and I can move on to block 2. At the beginning of stage 4 I can get the cross sub-weapon, which acts like a boomerang. That's the only thing I can really say about this stage, it's just climbing a couple stairs and jumping over a couple gaps. Stage 5 starts with the worst corridor in gaming, because it starts with the Medusa heads, which are one of the worst enemies in the game. I also get the knife, it's shit moving on. After going up the stairs I encounter my other biggest enemy, my own lack of awareness, as I don't notice a gap in the floor and walk straight to my death. On the second attempt a Medusa smacks me to the same gap. Third attempt I make it across, but then jump far too early and die in the next one. Fourth attempt and the game shows some mercy, and Medusa hits me through the floor, letting me skip the rest of the room and go straight to stage 6, where I throw myself face first into an instant killing crusher. On the second try, I stopped under the crusher to whip a candle. It did not go well. This third death is just bollocks though, because I wasn't even touching the thing. And after getting my ass kicked by this one block, I make it up into the last room, just a straightforward room with a couple Medusa heads. Even with no sub-weapon, the Queen Medusa was the easiest boss in the game for me. I just kept hitting it till it died. Now block 3, the castle ruins and the one with the best music. And seconds in, I'm introduced to my other biggest enemy, the Flea Men. They're just as hard to hit as the Medusa heads and have an even more unpredictable pattern. I was managing to deal with them though by the time I was done with the game. Up the stairs to the next screen and the whip delay gets me killed by a ghost. But I easily fight my way through on the second go, stay standing here not sure what to do about the skeleton until I remember I had the Holy Water, and then fall through the stairs. I was certain I was holding down. Also, who's the arsehole that keeps putting candles halfway over a pit so the item always falls into it? In stage 8 I get the last of the sub-weapons, the stopwatch. It freezes time for a few seconds, but it's also the most expensive one, using up 5 hearts. Just in time to be killed by one of these guys, the Bone Pillars. I hate them too. Most of the time I just use a stopwatch to freeze them in place, and then hope I can get in the 6 hits to kill them in time before they unfreeze. You can whip their fireballs, but a lot of the time one will come out while you're in between whip animations. And stage 9 is mostly just a straight line and about 5 of these guys. The last one even has some Medusa heads with him just to be a dick. Anyway, I get to the boss, a pair of mummies, and get trapped in the corner with them and die. The next time I'm left to fight them with no health thanks to the Bone Pillars. Another 10 minutes failing to get back there, I think to myself, what if I got up on that block there and keep whipping? It works. About 20 minutes that block took as opposed to the few that the first two did, but I was still enjoying myself. I can't say the same for the next two though. Block 4 begins with Simon falling down a very large drop into the catacombs. At first it doesn't seem so bad, just a couple bats and fishmen, easily dealt with. Then I mistake that row of bones for a raft or something and die, just as the actual platform floats on screen. Whatever, my mistake, things will be fine next time. Then the fixed jumping kills me, because I couldn't hit this bat because it was too low, and I couldn't jump forward either. It happens again, and then that platform rudely takes off just when I'm about to land on it. But I eventually make it on, across the next one and get up the stairs to stage 11, which is back outside and oh god no. Stage 11 is just a straight line with a load of eagles dropping flea men. Game over, back to stage 10. By the time I get back there the surprise has worn off and I can kill most of them as they're dropping. After them I get to worst enemy number 37, the Bone Dragon. The issue with these guys is they're diagonally travelling fireballs, which can be a nightmare to hit. This one wasn't a problem, but as I enter stage 12 there's another one, and then another. But stage 12 is mercifully very short, as those two are the only enemies in the way of the boss, the creature. Now the creature himself isn't the problem in this fight, it's Igor, that flea man that jumps around throwing fireballs at me. Game over again. Gotta make my way back again and I could just walk under that first dragon. Back to the boss. You can't just whip him and hope he dies first because Igor kills you in just 4 hits and he's all over the place. In fact at this point everything will do enough damage to kill you in 4 hits. Hitting him does freeze him in place for a couple seconds, but that itself is a challenge. He has limited health though, so freezing him in place and continuing to hit him forever isn't going to help. Getting cornered here isn't going to help either. And all that's if I don't die against one of the bone dragons first, or get hit so much on the way that Igor can rush in and finish me off in seconds. It gets to the point that if I die on stage 10, I just kill myself until I game over and get my lives back just so I have more for stage 12. It says a lot that the part with the army of fleamen is the easiest. At this point I'm never getting hit by them. It also doesn't help that if I die on stage 12, the knife is a sub-weapon I'm stuck with. But after 50 minutes of dealing with this, I managed to trap Igor in the perfect place to keep hitting him and the creature at the same time. By the time he gets free, it doesn't matter and I can finally move on. Surely it can't get harder than this, right? Block 5 takes place in the dungeons and 2 fleamen on screen right at the beginning. That's a good sign, isn't it? A screen later there's these red skeletons that can't be killed and pull themselves together if you hit them. They aren't a problem. But the 2 fleamen in between them are, of course. But the next time I get past them easily and I'm on stage 14 where the first Axe Knight kills me. I do learn I can get him to just walk off screen and never come back though. And I can trap the second one in a sort of similar situation. Aside from that, the only tricky part is this Axe Knight and red skeleton in the same spot, but it's not that bad. But then I enter stage 15 and things become truly miserable. I decided to keep my distance with the bone pillar since I had both the axe and the longer whip, but it caught me in the middle of throwing an axe and it's game over again. Once I make it back and get past it, I find there's one on top of the staircase, and the red skeleton decided to hang out there too. I do discover the hidden food below the stairs to the last room though, and I am so thankful for it, because this room here is by far the most frustrating section of this game. Axe Knights and Medusa heads at the same time. Deal with one, you're getting hit by the other. Normally it's that's getting me on the way back that does it. Nearly 25 minutes of struggling later and I'm finally at the boss, Death. Of course by the time I'm there I have no health left and one of his flying sickles gently nudges my head and kills me. This is what makes Death such a nightmare to fight. If it isn't getting closed in on from all directions by them, it's them spawning in where I'm standing and giving me no chance to react. Oh, and the stopwatch doesn't work on them. I tried. It was like this for about 3.5 hours, getting used to the layout of a level to the point I could get there with most or even sometimes all of my lives, and losing it all to either Death or the short bit before him. I don't regret to say but during this and the previous block, I was not enjoying the game at all. Nearly 3 hours of getting to Death and dying in seconds tends to bring your mood down a bit. But when it finally happened, when everything just worked out right, and at just one hit from Death, I saw that fucker explode. I was so overjoyed I didn't notice that remaining sickle as I was going for the orb. One moment later, and I would have been very upset. Finally, block 6. You know you're getting to the end when the first boss shows up again as a regular enemy. But after block 5, nothing could annoy me that much, even if getting hit anywhere almost guarantees falling into a pit. I make it across the bridge though and enter stage 17 inside the clock tower, and twice I game over in the same pit. But then I enter hell. 2 screens of eagles and fleamen all over the place. This staircase here is the worst part because it's so long and they fly in from the opposite direction so you can't defend yourself. But the next time I get there it's okay, I make it up the stairs and safely into stage 18, the Castle Keep. Thankfully whenever I game over now, it starts me back here, so I don't have to fight through the previous 2 stages again. Now, I watch the Angry Video Game Nerd, so I know to leave and re-enter this screen to stock up on hearts. Thanks nerd. When I'm done I enter Dracula's room and come face to face with him. Dracula is hard. His only weak point is his head, his only attack is fire those 3 fireballs from his cape, and they are deceptively hard to dodge. You can't just jump as soon as he appears because then he shoots them higher and you're guaranteed to get hit. You have to jump after he fires to make sure it's low enough for you to get over while being quick enough to whip his head before he disappears. Gotta make sure he doesn't reappear where you're standing either or you're getting hurt. It's a really long fight too. You have to hit him 16 times where you can only survive 3, and if you die, you gotta do the long stocking up on hearts over again. Actually, at one point while doing just that, I forgot to press down at the stairs and died. It would happen to me. But when you finally do it and knock his head clean off, you're still not done. You have another phase. I've heard enough about this game to keep throwing holy water and whipping to trap him in place, but he managed to jump and fireball me to death. Back to struggling with his first fall. Second time I got cornered and he killed me again. But the third time I had much more room and managed to unload on him until finally, Dracula died. I get to watch the castle collapse and I'm treated to a not particularly funny set of fake credits parodying various classic monster film directors and actors. So, while I did hate blocks 4 and 5, I did enjoy the rest of the game, and 2/3 is good, right? I'd like to play more of these, but it'll probably be a little while, at least until I stop having flashbacks to the death fight and hang on, stage 19. So it turns out there's a second, harder playthrough once you've beaten the game. I'll be honest, I did not know about this. If I had heard of it, I certainly didn't remember. So what's different? You take the full fall damage from everything throughout the entire game, and there are Medusas and bats everywhere. This was not fun. I'm not doing a full recap of the whole game again, so I'll just say the low points are all of block 2 and 4. 4 especially, with the arsehole fishman that popped through the platform and knocked me straight into the water. The rest I'll leave to this montage. Enjoy. And that's Castlevania. As I said, good game, sometimes too frustrating, but still good.